This is where the fun begins.
General Kenobi.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Jedi Knights, the official Star Wars podcast of Joy Clicks. I'm your host, Christian Buckley, joined by my Chewy Mike Connors for episode 55. Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm like in a Star Wars mood. I think I said that last week. Been sort of like preparing for the Mandalorian, so I'm good. Otherwise, life's good, I guess. Quarantine life. What about you?
Same. I'm also in a Star Wars mood. I've enjoyed Star Wars this year, of course, because we've had this wonderful show that we do together every week.
No way, really?
But today I'm like genuinely excited about Star Wars stuff. Like, it's a feeling that I haven't had since like maybe the final 4 episodes of Clone Wars, because we were caught up for that. We were in the hype for it. But if not that, then like definitely last holiday, you know, because like we're getting back into the holiday season. It's been a year almost since season 1 has started for Mando. Fallen Order hype, all that stuff. Like I feel that again today, which is exciting.
No, I watched both, because we're going to be talking about this later on in the episode. I watched the final 2 of the Mandalorian season 1, 2 episodes of the Mandalorian season 1, and so that's kind of getting me into a mood, you know. Also, not to mention the fact that I and a few friends had recently put together Darth Vader's castle. I got a Lego set for my birthday. Thank you, Jack, and other friends. But so yeah, did that. That was fun.
Very nice. Yeah, I saw that. That was impressive. That is a cool Lego set that should go on a fireplace mantle.
Literally, I know. I need to get like the Razor Crest or something.
Yeah. So like you said, we're going to get to our recap of our rewatch of season 1 of The Mandalorian, the final 2 episodes at the end of the show. But before that, we got a lot to talk about. We have news about The Mandalorian season 2, a new trailer. Mando Mondays officially kicked off today as of recording, so we'll recap that. Kanye West is in the Star Wars circuit recently, so we'll touch on that, as well as some quotes from some fan favorite Star Wars actors about returning. But before we get to any of that, why don't we kick the show off the way we normally do with From the Jedi Archives, our segment where we educate each other and the listeners on a piece of Star Wars lore that might be obvious, might be a cool hidden thing, might be legends, but we pull it from the sacred text of Wikipedia, so...
Exactly. Do you want to go first this time, Christian?
Sure. I wanted to pick one that was topical and timely, so we got Beskar.
Okay, cool.
Beskar, also known as Mandalorian steel, was an alloy used in Mandalorian armor. Notable for its high tolerance to extreme forms of damage, the metal was durable enough to withstand a direct blaster shot and could repel lightsaber strikes.
Ooh.
It was also used to create the Mandalorian... a super weapon created by Sabine Wren was used against the Galactic Empire using the superheating metal. So
interesting. When was that depicted? I don't... Does it say? Does it have like a footnote or anything? Because that's interesting. Maybe I missed that somewhere. I don't know.
I'm looking into it. Looks like it was used...
But that's interesting. I wonder, like, also, Beskar comes from Legends, right? That's like a Legends thing at first.
I believe so, yeah. On the Wikipedia page, it details, obviously, Beskar because most commonly, I think now, it is known because of the Mandalorian series.
Sure.
But, yeah, it has history with the Siege of Mandalore, obviously. The Great Purge that we saw unfold in the Skywalker saga, but yeah, before 2006, Star Wars Legends article, "The Mandalorians, People and Culture" was the first to name drop Beskar. So,
interesting. That's cool.
Yeah.
I guess I looked it up, and she constructed an arc pulse generator. It was designed to target Beskar and vaporize the wearer of it.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Watch out, Din.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, very cool. Good pick.
Thank you. So what did you pick this week?
I picked R2-R9.
Okay.
So he is a R2 series astromech droid, obviously, that served the royal house of the planet Naboo during the invasion of Naboo. by the Trade Federation. So it served aboard the Naboo Royal Starship when Queen Padme Amidala used the vessel to flee from Naboo. So this was one of the R2 units that were called up from the escape from Naboo, and they were unfortunately shot away, for R2, blown away, except for R2D2, who survived and saved the day.
Mm-hmm.
So, pour one out for R2 R9.
Yeah, because
the quote that it has right here is "Wow," and then it's R2 and R9 whales as it is destroyed. So
that's very good. I mean, look at it this way: R9 took a bullet so R2 could carry on, save the day, cause the entire Skywalker saga.
Exactly. I mean, without R2 R9, we wouldn't have R2D2.
Of course not. We probably wouldn't have Luke Skywalker either, because Anakin was on that ship.
Exactly. Yeah.
R9, we thank you for your sacrifice.
Yes, thank you so much, R9.
Well, speaking of, I tried. I could not find.
You were trying to get a transition.
I tried. That does it for the Jedi Archives. Let's talk about that Mando trailer.
Yeah.
This dropped last week, a few hours after we finished recording, as
of course
many things do. But honestly, I don't think we missed out on too much.
No, now remind me, this is the one that it starts with like the X-Wings that are like kind of following the Razor Crest, right?
Yeah, so the X-Wings pull up in space beside the Razor Crest again. It shows the Gamorreans in the boxing arena Fight Club thing. It shows the blue alien from season 1, potentially not him, might just be somebody from that race, but again, that type of Star Wars alien is returning. We see that shot again of Din and the child meeting up with Greef Karga and Cara Dune on whatever planet. Like, it's a lot of stuff we've seen before.
I was gonna say that it just felt like sort of a rehash of the other trailer.
Yeah, there was a narration
in more ways than once, but like I don't know.
Yeah, there was a narration from Din's perspective that went through the trailer, and I don't think we've heard that specific narration before, unless I'm mistaken. One thing that stood out to me was he said, "I need your help. I've been quested to find the little one's kind," or something. He's talking to Greef about that. Yeah. And then as the trailer progresses and it shows, again, all this footage we've kind of seen before, he says something to the effect of, "If I find other Mandalorians, they can guide me." And, like, I'm wondering if this is where one Sabine Wren comes in, considering people are speculating that Sasha Banks is playing her alongside Rosario Dawson's Ahsoka.
So do you think that's going to be the way that like Ahsoka is introduced into the Mandalorian? Like maybe she's hanging out with like a bunch of Mandalorians alongside like Sabine, and like Mando sort of just like stumbles upon them.
I think
while looking for other Mandos.
I think potentially, yeah. Like he looks for the Mandalorian, and I think that honestly, I never looked at it this way, but I think that's a really solid way to introduce Ahsoka without it feeling forced. You know?
Yeah, totally. Because that's like kind of how it ends, how Star Wars Rebels ends as well.
Mm-hmm. So
is that like they sort of team up? So
yeah, do you think if we do get introduced to Sabine and she takes more of a priority in the season than Ahsoka does, because again the Mandalorian heritage, do you think that would be like underwhelming for you as someone who is excited to see Ahsoka in this show? Like, where are you at with that?
Honestly, probably not. Just with the condition that we'll see more like Ahsoka later on.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, these things take time. Like it's just the second season. I'm sure they have a lot more ideas.
Yeah.
If they want to focus on Sabine this season and sort of just kind of brush past Ahsoka in a way, that's fine. I think it's just cool that they're starting to at least look at ways to represent that character in different ways other than just the cartoon.
For sure. I had another idea.
Yeah.
Just now when you're saying that. What if because we see, again, it's speculated that Sasha Banks is playing Sabine, and we saw her in the first trailer. You know, it was like the kind of the, oh, is she a Jedi, but she's not, fake out type deal. And I wonder if in his search for the Mandalorians, he comes across Sabine, and he's like, hey, I need to find the Jedi. And then Sabine's like, oh, I know someone. And then they have to look together for Ahsoka, you know? Because I feel like that goes with the weekly search that season 1 of Mando had, of like, hey, week to week we're in a new place. So if the first half of the season is about meeting up with Sabine and journeying with her, and then the second half is looking for Ahsoka, I feel like that could be really cool.
That could be really cool. I think you're right. I just guess it all depends on what's this next season of Mandalorian is going to be. Is it going to be sort of that more week to week sort of job of the week, adventure of the week sort of deal? Or are we going to get like more interconnected like story narrative storytelling throughout episodes? I don't know. I think like it could work either way. I guess what I'm thinking is, I don't know how much of an emphasis this story is going to have on existing characters. I think that the way that you're describing that would sort of be like, I just wouldn't expect Disney to do something like that. I feel like they would want to, in a way, push out and like branch out and sort of have the Mandalorian and like new characters do things on their own. But yeah, I mean, I think that having the thought that maybe he goes searching for other Mandalorians, comes across Sabine, and then that's clearly his way to find Ahsoka, right? I guess it would make sense. I don't know how it's going to work. I think it's just interesting that you brought that up because I hadn't really considered it. And it makes sense because we know at the end of Star Wars Rebels, after Return of the Jedi, they team up. So,
so I'm curious to see where it goes. Speaking to your point as well about speculating if Mando is going to continue the job of the week thing or get more interconnected in terms of its overall plot. We did also see, according to a leak, which could, worth mentioning, could be wrong, but Chapter 9, Season 2, Episode 1, via a foreign to us Disney Plus account, seems like it's 52 minutes long, which will be the longest episode of the show so far, beating episode 8 of season 1, which is 49 minutes, but before credits, the runtime of that is 43 minutes. So,
yeah, I mean, I think, you know, honestly, I think it's probably true that it's 52 minutes long. It makes sense. It's not that unreasonable. I guess that just means that, like, you know, is that going to stay for like the next 7 episodes? I don't know, because like you said, you know, the last episode of season 1 was close to 50 minutes, but we surely didn't see that throughout the rest of the season. So I don't know.
Yeah. I did pop into Disney Plus just to get raw stats. And I saw that the season 1, episode 1 was, I think, 40 minutes with 3 minutes of credits about. So we got some range, you know. I think... at the very least, it's probably longer than season 1, episode 1, you know, in terms of that. I don't know if this is going to be a trend. I don't know if episode 1 is just a big bombastic payoff to the consequences of the last 2 episodes. I don't know, but we'll see.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. I hope that they start to, you know, do longer episodes, honestly. Just maybe that's selfish because I just want to see more of it, but you know, what can I say?
Yeah, I mean, I would like longer episodes. We talked about this last week as well. If it's a matter of like just having content to have content, then like don't, because I think, and we both agreed on this, that there was no wasted time in the context of each individual episode, really. So we can like keep the fat trimmed, you know? So we'll see how they handle it.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Mandalorian, today is the first official Mando Monday, which is going to be a series that Disney and Lucasfilm is continuing every Monday via live stream. I don't know how long each one is going to be, but the one today was about 36 minutes long. I tuned in for this whole thing. Had a variety of familiar faces from the Star Wars show this week in Star Wars. So it was the faces you expect. It was kicked off by Pedro Pascal, and we got some interviews with Carl Weathers. And
I actually did kind of go into this like halfway through for a second, and I saw Carl Weathers.
Yeah,
so.
The Carl Weathers interview segment was really fun.
Yeah,
and Giancarlo Esposito as well, and he was very enthusiastic about being in the Star Wars universe. It was very fun. I recommend watching his interview because he was hyped. He was like, I have an action figure. He took apart the Monopoly set and he's like, that looks just like me. Oh my god, I'm in Monopoly. I love Monopoly. Like, he was getting really excited. It was really fun.
That must be sick. Like when you become like, you're an actor and everything, and Giancarlo Esposito, like he's in some pretty popular things like Breaking Bad and whatnot, but like you start to do some Star Wars stuff, and then you start to see like the Black Series figure of your character come out. That must be unreal.
Yeah, he did a costume change mid interview, and he like put on a T-shirt of himself, and he's like, yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah. Some highlights though, it was mostly merch. There were a lot of interviews sprinkled in, but it was a lot of merch. Specifically a lot of Baby Yoda merch, which duh. But some of the standouts were there's like an animatronic child.
I saw this. Yeah.
Pedro Pascal like opened with it. He's like, this is the thing. Mando and the child Funko. There was one. This stood out to me. There's a collaboration with Element, who is a skate company. They have, I think, 4 Mandalorian themed skateboard decks, and the one that Pedro Pascal held up and opened with, I gotta tell you, I might drop $90 to put that on a wall because it looks nice.
Does it?
Yeah, it looks very, very nice. It's like 3/4 of Mando's face on the board, and it's sort of like a minimalistic color. I tweeted the image out, but it's like it's very vibrant colors. Like, it's definitely an artistic take on representing Din Djarin, the helmet, with a really like spacey background. I really, really like it.
Is it like bluish reddish kind of?
Yeah, bluish reddish with some orange in there. It looks really nice.
I'm looking at it right now. It looks very good.
So there's a couple others, like I said, a bunch of like t-shirts, jackets, ties. There's a Darksaber toy. So if you want a Darksaber lightsaber that does not collapse, worth mentioning. Giancarlo was giving tips on how to wield it. He's like, you gotta lock your wrists so you don't like give in.
Okay,
fall through the swing.
Do you think that means that he's had some training on it?
Absolutely. I think, yeah, man. I was gonna read into that a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I mean, do you think we're gonna see some Giancarlo Esposito like trying to mess somebody up with the Darksaber?
I think so, because he was saying like, I've learned very early that you can't like wobble your wrists, and I was like, does that mean that you've been sparring? Does that mean that you're gonna face off against the lightsaber?
I think that means he's been sparring. Yeah, I think so.
That's exciting.
That is exciting. I mean, that means that he's probably fighting somebody with some other sword, like of some sort.
Yeah, maybe Ahsoka, maybe Luke Skywalker. I don't know. We'll see.
Right. Could you imagine?
In the world of video games, though, we're getting some updates.
Okay.
There's a child bobblehead and an IG-11 bobblehead that are being added for free to Star Wars Squadrons that you can just keep on your dashboard with your ships, which is neat.
Cool.
The Mandalorian cast is coming to Galaxy of Heroes. Some are returning because I guess Mando was added last season, but even more of the cast is coming in for this new update.
Yeah.
Star Wars The Old Republic is getting an update to add some Mandalorian armor to the marketplace, I guess. It's not strictly like Din's armor, it's just new Mandalorian as a people armor, you know?
Interesting. That probably, I wonder if there's some licensing issues there. Like they couldn't say that specifically, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That there were a couple other things, like I think a bunch of Star Wars games are on sale right now. So if you are itching to get that Sims pack or like the re-releases of Pod Racer, those are on sale.
Interesting. Cool. I'm also seeing that you could buy a Baby Yoda themed Instapot. So if you ever wanted your rice Baby Yoda themed, I guess, there you
Yeah.
go.
As the stream went on, they kept getting like transmissions they framed it as, and it was like just a kitchen, and it was showing more and more appliances with like Baby Yoda stuck on it. Like
Oh my god.
there was a Baby Yoda waffle maker, which I looked nice, like because
Sure.
gives you the nice ears for the syrup to pour in there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny.
There was like a coffee maker. There was Tupperware. There was a lot. One of the things I learned during this, though, as well, is that Carl Weathers keeps his collectibles in box.
Wow, okay. So he collects.
Yeah, apparently.
I wonder what he collects.
Yeah, because I mean, Carl Weathers has had a career, Like, does he collect Predator merch or something? Like, what does he do?
I mean, possibly, right?
Yeah, I could see him be a baseball card guy.
Yeah, I'm sure that if he is a collector of anything, just the fact that he's in Star Wars, I'm sure he's probably trying to find everything with his face on it.
Oh, yeah, because it was funny that just comparing the two interviews, Giancarlo put on a shirt of Moff Gideon, right? And he was like, "This is so sick." And Anthony Carboni was interviewing Carl Weathers, and Anthony Carboni took off his button-up Beskar shirt, and beneath it was a Grief Karga shirt. And then Carl Weathers was like super hyped about that, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't want to be like self-absorbed, so I just wore a Mando shirt today." But yeah, he was really excited about it as well, which was nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, and this is separate from the big stuff today, but it was also announced today. The Xbox is releasing an Xbox One special edition controller. I think it's like $130. It is a Mandalorian inspired controller that comes with a charging dock, and it releases towards the end of December this year.
So Mandalorian inspired, what does that mean? I guess I was afraid that you're going to say like, oh, Xbox announced today that there's a Baby Yoda themed Xbox Series X coming out. But what does that mean? Like, is it just like themed like colors or something, or is there like decal on it?
Yeah. So the controller itself, it's the front of it, like the front plate, looks like the breastplate of Mando's armor. So it has like the diamond in the middle. It looks like a weathered steel decal kind of on the left and right control nubs, I guess, or handles. You have the Mudhorn sigil and then the Boba Fett sigil.
Oh, cool.
And I think that was it. Oh, the back has, on the battery cover, it has a bunch of like Star Wars text, and on one side of it has a wanted, and then it shows the child. So that was fun.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but I kind of like. I want that. I don't own an Xbox, but I want that.
It's honestly, it's strange. Like you said, it's coming out sometime in November or December.
December, yeah, late December.
So why is it coming out for the Xbox One?
I don't know, because like that's where all their special edition controllers are, and they have a brand new console coming out. It's not that controller.
Exactly. I don't understand. I mean, like, I know they have like a bunch of special controllers for the Xbox One, but like that could have been the first special controller for the Xbox Series X. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's worth noting, if you do buy it, it will work on the next gen Xboxes. It'll work on PC too, so it's not useless. But
this is true. Okay, I'm dumb. Anyways.
Yeah, well, the big thing is you're missing that share button, so you can't really clip out your horrible, devastating losses in video games anymore.
Exactly.
I didn't write this down, but one last thing I want to shout out. They're doing a Adidas collab.
Oh, yeah.
And some of those shoes look nice. I like some Adidas.
You thinking about getting some?
Well, here's the thing. I really love Adidas Superstars. They're super comfy. I've had one pair for like 3 years, and I should have gotten rid of them a year ago. But the Superstars they're doing are really nice. They're like a matcha green color, and they got some like tan on it, so it's child inspired, and might get those to replace the old ones.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I would. So you're gonna have Baby Yoda on your shoes, I guess.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, There's some cool ones. I think there's probably like 10 different shoes across that whole line, so worth checking out if you're interested. But
cool.
Um,
I wonder what the next Mando Mondays are going to be like. There's so much merch coming out on this one. Like,
yeah, because
they must have a lot in the barrel.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff I skipped over too. Like there was a golden. Remember those like golden books from when we were like 3?
Yes.
It's like those. It's like picture books with the spine that has like the gold print on it, and it's like something like that. It's like a line. Some book series, but
yes,
they announced a Mando one of that recounts like the story of Din and the Child from season 1, and it's like a very like toddler storybook.
Oh.
Bunch of other stuff too. So I
Cool.
don't know what they have next week.
All right, we'll have to see, I guess.
We will. But overall, do you think Mando Mondays? Do you think this is like the pinnacle of it, or do you think we get something exciting in the coming weeks?
I think we get something exciting in the coming weeks. You don't show all your cards at once, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't know how groundbreaking it'll actually be, but I mean, I think they'll have some cool stuff coming. Honestly, not super excited to see what they have, but it'll be fun every Monday to kind of just recap, I think.
Yeah, because you would assume they might treat it as some sort of a post show as well for the episode that dropped a couple days earlier, and say like, hey, coming up this week, we got to follow up to this plot thread. Maybe, I don't know.
Probably, I would assume so. I mean, Anthony Carboni and those Star Wars show people are good at that.
Yeah. So that whole time though, I was just waiting for them to announce something with Battlefront 2, because there was a video game block and they were going through all the ones, and it was like, okay, Battlefront.
Yeah,
we get a Mando update.
They're not going to update Battlefront 2.
No, they're not.
Unfortunately.
# make Battlefront 2 crossplay.
Yes.
So speaking of video games, though, over the past week, we got a new look at the next video game project in the realm of VR from ILM Lab, who did Vader Immortal. It is Tales from Galaxy's Edge. We talked about this when it was announced, I think in May or June. The next initiative from them, it is a story written around the canonical place that is Black Spire Outpost, which is just the Galaxy's Edge theme park, which we talked about before. We both think there's like potential to tell a story through that lens, right?
Yeah, I think we've discussed that before. Like I think I mentioned that I read the Thrawn book that went there. So yeah, I think there is potential. But...
yeah. I don't know if you got a chance to check the trailer out, but it showcased. Okay, so it showcased. It looked pretty fun, actually. It was a first-person perspective, as you'd expect from VR. You're like a space pirate, kind of, that crashes on Black Spire, and you are sort of... Your hub is like a bar, which is nice. It's an empty bar, except for the bartender, who's an alien, and he's telling you all these things about things you can do around the area, the history of Black Spire. They showcase some gun gameplay or blaster gameplay, exploring throughout the Black Spire. There's a sequence where he's like, "Oh, your pirate buddy showed up, and I told him exactly where to find you." And then it's like you behind cover, like blowing away space pirates.
Nice.
But at the end of the trailer, he's like, "Let me tell you about that Jedi temple that used to be around here." And then it cuts to Yoda. Like Yoda's there, and I think it's the same voice actor that you'd expect, but you end up igniting a lightsaber and then start chopping things down with a lightsaber. I'm like, damn, this seems like the whole package.
Yeah, what is Yoda doing on Batuu, man? I thought that was supposed to be like a, I don't know, like a far away, far flung place,
right? I don't know.
But I don't know.
So we'll see how.
Seems like a stretch to me. I don't know.
They also worth noting, of course, R2 and 3PO show up at some point, so they're bumbling around, and he's like, "You'll never know who you run into in the Black Spire Outpost," and then that's how they introduce some characters like R2 and 3PO, and then eventually Yoda. But
it's funny, like they want to make it seem like as though the Black Spire Outpost is like this far-flung place that nobody goes, but like somehow all of the major characters from Star Wars are there. at all times.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they contextualize it, because, like, I know the theme park is canon, so, like,
Yeah.
it's, like, frozen in time, though, in the timeline, so, like, if a normal person were to visit it, they would come across that infinitely repeating day of the day that Kylo Ren, Rey, the First Order, Finn, everybody, Chewbacca was at this outpost. Because it's canonical. Like, it works that way. That's why they're there.
Yeah. No,
So,
they took a day out of, it's not they just put a pause on the war for a day, and they
yeah.
were like, let's have like a vacation
Yeah.
on Batu.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you get to go to.
Yeah. So, it is releasing November 19th. It is only on the Oculus. As a PlayStation VR owner who plugged that headset back in recently and got very sick, might upgrade. Might trade that and get that wireless Oculus at some point.
Yeah, those are pretty cool. I think my cousin has one of those. I used it once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if the VR is necessarily for me. I think the technology has to get a bit better before I'll be interested. But yeah, I mean, it feels weird that like VR games have like exclusivity because like
It's already so.
Yeah, like the technology isn't like that accessible, and like you're kind of just shutting people out from this IP if they don't have Oculus, right?
Yeah, because as someone who really liked my time, and I really love VR, my PlayStation VR I used a fair amount, but as someone who, my secondary reason behind getting it for a Tetris game was the Star Wars VR battle mission, and now I didn't even pick it up for Squadrons. Like, I think, considering Oculus got Vader Immortal and is getting this now exclusively, like Vader Immortal came but significantly later, I think like Oculus seems like it's the place to be as a Star Wars fan that owns VR. So
yeah, I guess so. I mean, you can't play Squadrons through that, right? It's only PSVR.
I'm not sure actually. I didn't look into that.
So you never know.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, you want to take a pace breaker story?
Sure. Yeah.
So Kanye West is in the Star Wars news recently.
I know. I love this so much.
He recently. I don't watch Joe Rogan's stuff, but I saw it recently.
It was all over the Twitter.
Yeah, it popped up on my timeline. All my Star Wars friends posting these clips.
Yeah.
He, in his 3-hour interview, at some point he came across the topic of Star Wars, and there were such notable highlights, such as who created Star Wars. Oh wait, sorry. Who's the main character of Star Wars?
Yes.
Luke Skywalker. Who created Star Wars? George Lucas, right?
I never made that connection before. Kanye?
Did you honestly?
No, I never really did. I never really thought to make that connection. But I guess like it's an interesting observation at the very least.
Yeah, like I feel like in the past I've noticed it. I just never like thought about it. I was like, oh yeah, George Lucas names character Luke. That's funny. But I never really looked into it. But there was another clip where he was basically giving his takes on the series as a whole. And you're the one who sent me this. So basically, what was the gist of his thoughts?
I think he was saying, let me remember. He was saying something about how the sequel trilogy was worse than the prequels, because like Disney corrupted like George Lucas's pure vision of like what Star Wars was, and it was like this rambled on response about like how Lucas like wanted to show the hero's journey, and like Disney kind of just came in and ruined it, which is like really funny to come to hear from Kanye West. That was pretty accurate to what he said, right? Like,
yeah, that was in the same ballpark.
Yeah, it was funny to hear that come from him, I have to say.
Yeah, because I didn't realize he was a Star Wars fan. You know,
I didn't either.
But he said since COVID, he's watched Revenge of the Sith, quote, like 10 times.
Yeah. There's a new song of his actually that was released on
Tell me May 4th.
No, it was released on October 16th.
Oh, really?
And yeah, it's called "Na Na Na" by Kanye West,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a certain lyric in it. I'm pulling it up right now. Um, yeah, he says, "Next time you text, can it wait? You're talking to a presidential candidate. I know you think Obi-Wan getting tired now. Don't jump, Anakin. I got the higher ground."
Oh my god.
So yeah, that's a song that he released October 16th. Yeah, check it out, I guess.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah,
That was the pace break story, you know? It was like, hey, what the hell? And then we got a boon for the second half of the show.
literally.
Oh my god. Speaking of Obi-Wan though,
Yeah,
Ewan McGregor, he's doing stuff now for Obi-Wan.
thank God.
I know. On the Happy Sad Confused podcast, host Josh Horowitz did an interview with Ewan McGregor. And we got some information about his thought process as well as what it was like to put the costume back on. So I'll just read the whole quote he had in response to Horowitz asking him about what it was like if he was ready to return. So Ewan said, "I really am very excited about it. It's been a long time coming. I mean, we've been talking about doing it, Lucasfilm and Disney, I don't know, for 4 or 5, maybe more years, and it's just taken a while to come to fruition. I'm excited about the fact that it's a series as opposed to a movie. It gives us more space. And mainly, I'm excited about it because of the Mandalorian series, which I just thought was really good. And we're going to adopt some of that technology that they utilized in that filming, and I'm working with Deborah Chow, who directed some Mandalorian. I'm really excited about working with her. I think she's really good. We did a couple of tests. When we were going to make a film earlier, we did some testing, and it was great working with her." And then referring to the costume test, he said, "We did it properly. It was funny walking on set because it was a lot of the Mandalorian crew, and I walked on, and it was a big moment. I walked into the dressing room, and there were my beige cloaks and my belts and boots, and it was like, oh my god, it was my old costume. It was amazing."
That's so wholesome, dude.
I
I
know.
love it.
Yeah.
I love it so much. It's
Mm-hmm.
so good. How
Yeah.
does that make you feel?
When I saw that initially, about a week ago, I think. Like, I saw the quote of like him saying like, "Oh, I walked in and it was my old costume just sitting there." I was like, "That's super exciting," and it just made me smile because we do not deserve Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan. That is the purest form of the Jedi on the planet.
Yeah. I think if we're going to talk about these quotes just a little bit more analytical, as we like to do here on this podcast. The first quote, he says that it's been a long time coming, like Lucasfilm and Disney have been talking about it for 4 or 5, even more years. And then he makes a comment about how it's a series as opposed to a movie, which is interesting. And he goes on about how the technology with the Mandalorian is really good. And then he says, when we were going to make a film earlier, we did some testing and it was great working with her. So, like, I guess that definitely just sort of confirms that, like, maybe a TV show wasn't necessarily what Disney was looking to do from the beginning.
Yeah, well, I think a while ago, like a couple years ago, when the first rumor came out, it was in the framing of being a Star Wars story film like Solo.
Yeah.
So I guess there was truth to that, and I'm seeing it morph into a series after the success of The Mandalorian, or just seeing it announced as a series with the hype build up to Mando. It was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you're converting Star Wars through The Mandalorian to television. You have an incredible acclaimed series with the Clone Wars on television. You're forming a traditionally cinematic film screening series like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You're pushing the entire next like couple of years of storytelling basically on your streaming service. So I think it's one of those projects where it makes sense to morph it in that way, but it is really interesting knowing that at least some form of what the show was meant to be a film at one point.
Right. Yeah. No, it's interesting, and I think we've talked about this ad nauseum. It's good that they're doing TV shows instead of films. But I also find it interesting. Like, I guess they were thinking about working with Deborah Chow earlier too, because I guess they did some film tests with her.
Yeah, so I wonder when that was placed, because that also stuck out to me. Just in terms of when he said when we were making a film earlier, we did some testing. It was great working with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder when she came aboard, because I think it was announced that she was like running the show after Mando started last year, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think like Mandalorian started, and then they kind of just announced like halfway through that she would be doing Obi-Wan.
Yeah, so that's
yeah, I mean
interesting.
it's interesting. I guess we don't know the placement of this. I guess it could have been before that. It could have been years ago. And maybe that's how they first, started their relationship with her.
Yeah,
Who
potentially.
knows?
Regardless, I'm excited. Once again, we
Yes.
learned last week that they're beginning shooting in March. So hopefully, thanks to the costume test, thanks to all this news, thanks to how fast Mando is pumped out, maybe we see a teaser or something by the end of 2021 about Obi-Wan.
Hopefully, man. I would love to be a fly on the wall in that room.
Yeah.
During that costume test. But
yeah, it's weird though, because like as badly as I want to see that costume test or just like a new promotional image, it's like it's gonna look like Obi-Wan. Like it's gonna look like him in that costume because it's the same costume.
Do you think like this is just I don't know, it's just me coming to my mind right now. Do you think like how old do you think Obi-Wan's gonna be in this new series? Like is he gonna be like a scraggly old man?
No, I think he's definitely gonna be younger than New Hope Obi-Wan.
But like weathered and stuff. I want to see like him like beat up, like he's been living a hard life here on the desert planet for a while.
I think we're getting the biggest beard Obi-Wan's ever had.
Yeah.
And I think we're gonna get you know how like in Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan, his hair is like it's fairer, like it's still like light brown, not as like deep as it was in Attack of the Clones. Like I think we might see some gray on the side,
Sure,
in that nice haircut. But
that'd be sick.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting.
All right,
slightly raggedy, but like it's Obi-Wan, so he's gonna be presentable,
I just want to see like a I don't know, like an Obi-Wan like hardened by the elements,
Yeah.
like he's been living like a hard life out of the desert. That's what I want.
Sunburned.
Yeah, sunburnt, like, he's just like he's got a beard, like, or maybe not even sunburnt, he's just like tan AF. Like who knows?
But there's another actor from the Star Wars saga that has been popping up in interviews recently about returning to a former role, and it's none other than John Boyega. Surprise.
Surprise, surprise.
It doesn't even feel like 5 episodes ago that we were talking about the GQ interview that John Boyega did, where he was basically saying like, F Disney, this sucks, like why would they screw me like this. That he's back. I don't know if anything changed. I don't know if he's just been able to like separate himself from that experience for a little longer, and now he's coming around on it. But in a recent interview with Yahoo for his, apparently he's on an Amazon Prime series.
Okay.
John Boyega was asked about returning to the character of Finn in Star Wars, and he had a lot to say, basically.
Okay.
So I'll just read both quotes he has. He said, I think Colin Trevorrow was going to tell the story. That image of Finn with the blue flag, and you have the AT-ATs lined up with the tribal marks, and the stormtroopers take off their helmets. That would have been sick. That would have been dope, man. Hands down. I'm a Mandalorian fan, so Lucasfilm is doing very well with the TV shows. An animated show would be dope. We could do it from home. And then he went on saying, I don't know what's going on with Star Wars. I'm alive, that's one thing. But it would depend on the story and if Daisy and Oscar are coming back. I wouldn't want to be running around by myself or anything.
That's kind of cute.
Yeah. So
he wouldn't want to do it alone.
Yeah. Obviously this is a change of tone from him in terms of returning and in terms of television. Because I remember, I think in like the press tour for Rise of Skywalker. He was like, "Oh, I'm not a Disney Plus kid. You're not putting me on Disney Plus or something like that." I think he said that.
Look at how the tides have changed, I guess, or tides have turned rather.
Yeah. So, what's your biggest takeaway?
He's just like so. I just love how like candid he is all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you could just while like reading the quotes, like I could just imagine him saying these things. Mm-hmm. I love how he says, "I'm alive." That's one thing. That's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like Colin. I now don't even know how to say Colin T over here. He was supposed to like do that cool story with like Finn sort of leading like a stormtrooper like revolution. That would have been sick, but alas, we got like Rey healing a snake instead. So
yeah. I did read this recap of the interview on Star Wars Newsnet, and they also mentioned that Daisy Ridley has expressed, I don't know specific interviews, but she's expressed a willingness to return eventually. But she said like we left off in a good spot for Rey that she's happy with for right now. So she's open to it. Obviously, Oscar Isaac has been a little more outspoken about not wanting to continue.
Yeah, but he would come around.
Yeah.
You don't think that if John Boyega and Daisy Ridley wanted to do it, he wouldn't do it too?
No, I think he'd be in because him and John are seem like they're really good friends, right?
Yeah. You'd think so. I mean, I would hope so. It would be lame if it was just two of them, but
yeah. So yeah, and I also they also mentioned Kelly Marie Tran has also expressed interest in returning as Rose if the story is good. So like, I think again we realistically are in a world where in some form I think we will eventually continue with these characters. I don't know if it's in an episode 10 in like 8 more years or if it's in an animated series that they all sign on to do or what, but I don't think the book is closed yet.
Yeah, we certainly haven't seen the last of them, which is like kind of sad. I kind of hoped that like we wouldn't like the story would be I kind of hoped that the sequel trilogy sort of ended in a place where like we didn't need to see what happened with those characters anymore.
Sure.
But like, yeah, it wasn't satisfying. So
I want redemption for Finn, man. I want Finn. I want Rose to have like a good arc. I want them to have a really solid, good movie.
Yeah, I want like John Boyega to like be a Jedi and then like I don't know, like turn to the dark side, or like Rey turns to the dark side and he's got to save her or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but here's the thing: the fact that they're open to it and they've learned the lessons of this trilogy that is out there now. Like, I don't think it's out of the question that with enough separation, they're like, hey, play on that nostalgia. It's like, hey, the cast that you saw. Because the thing is, I get nostalgic for Force Awakens.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be one of those things that, like, 15 years ago, we wouldn't have expected being nostalgic about like the Phantom Menace, but like,
I mean, for
who's
us
to say that 15 years from now we're not going to be looking at Rise of Skywalker and be looking at it differently, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm curious then, considering John Boyega brought up the point that we have brought up of like, hey, they can do voice acting from home. Like, I wonder if he's in the holiday special.
I hope so, man. I'm sure he's gonna come back.
Oh yeah, hearing how quickly his tone has changed. I think he was probably just very frustrated, rightfully so, when he did the GQ interview. Yes. But I don't know if anything changed on like the business side. He says he doesn't know anything or what, but Finn is a character who, again, I would love to see return, and I want to see him become a Jedi. I want to see that story be told, and I think get away from the repeating the Empire story, get away from the First Order cyclical nature, and you let Finn become a leader. Like, yes, adapt the morals and the themes of what Duel of the Fates was going to be for Finn, and like make that the focal point of a trilogy. Yes.
Yeah, literally.
Mm-hmm. So
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, me too. So, we got one more return that is being teased.
Yeah. We won't spend too much time on this one.
Yeah, this one is really nothing outside of the fact that somebody who has a pretty okay track record is saying this. So Daniel Richman, who has tweeted out stuff in the past about Marvel, some DC info. I think he's a verified insider because he's gotten enough things correct where it's like, okay, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Via his Patreon, so I couldn't read the whole thing. I couldn't read it at all. I don't know what he detailed outside of what some people who are patrons of him spread around.
Sure.
Via his Patreon, he said that The Force Unleashed 3 is in early development. There you go. EA may or may not be involved.
Okay. All right. I'm not really that hyped about it, to be honest. I mean, like, that would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
I just I want to see them do new stuff. Like, I don't know. I thinking about like Fallen Order and versus Force Unleashed, they're both so different, and like I would prefer a game like Fallen Order than like what the Force Unleashed 1 and 2 are like at this point in my life. But
now, Mike, here's what my hope is. My hope, and we've done a couple episodes this year talking about the Force Unleashed and just like looking back at it. My hope is that it's sort of the foil to what Fallen Order is in terms of the gameplay, but the story is from the Sith side. I think that could be really fun.
So you're saying like just lean into like the ridiculousness of it?
Kind of. Like, I think I'd want the structure of it to still feel the way Fallen Order feels.
Okay.
I don't know if it would be a Respawn thing or if it's another company, but I'm thinking reboot it, obviously, because it's not going to be a sequel to a Legends thing, and I don't think you can canonize The Force Unleashed 2 based on my memory of that game.
No.
Bring back Sam Witwer, because he does amazing work in Star Wars voice acting and in video games. And retool Vader's Secret Apprentice to be a compelling story, not a ridiculous one. You know, maybe you can really lean into the dark force powers, maybe just create new force powers, and that's the appeal. But
so you're saying like do Force Unleashed 3, but make it a soft reboot of Force Unleashed?
Yeah, like keep some elements, because I do want to see Sam Witwer play another character that looks like him, so he could show up in a movie at some point. But
also called Starkiller.
Yeah.
Just take the character and
It doesn't have to be a 1-to-1 in that way, though. I'd like him to be involved, and honestly, if it was Respawn and they're retooling it, I think it could be cool to do a sort of 2 concurrent series going on of like a Jedi Fallen Order game and then a Secret Apprentice game, and then maybe those 2 series cross over at some point. Maybe it's like Cal versus Starkiller. That could be really cool. Like,
that would be sick, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, these are all good points. We'll have to see, I guess, if this is even true.
Yeah. So
could not be. I don't know.
Look forward to that potentially in like 4 years.
Yeah.
So with that though, we come to our Mando rewatch review segment. We watched episodes 7 and 8 this past week, the 2 finale episodes. Now, Mike, you watched both of these back to back like I did last year. How was that?
I thought, I think the last time that I watched these episodes were back when they aired, so probably like December, right? That was when. So yeah, it was probably back in December when I've last watched these episodes. Mm-hmm. And watching them back to back is probably better than watching them just like as they're released, because they flow so well together into one another. And it's interesting because like having watched all of the Mandalorian episodes leading up to this, it feels like right when episode 3 happened, they kind of just like stopped with the main plot. Like Sorgan, episode 4 sort of like kind of set up the whole bounty hunters looking for Baby Yoda, but this episode 7 seems like the plot, like the main story of the season of The Mandalorian, like resumes. Mm-hmm. And like it very much goes straight into episode 8. I think it sort of just feels like one big movie when you watch it.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're 2 of the stronger episodes. I think they're the strongest pair, if you want to pair up episodes. Episode 7, or Chapter 7, excuse me, The Reckoning, is directed by Deborah Chow. Chapter 8, Redemption, is Taika Waititi. Again, 2 directors who future Star Wars projects are resting in their hands. Yes. Capably, I would add.
Very much so.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about Chapter 7. This is the reveal of Moff Gideon.
Yes.
How do you think that lands in the year 2020, knowing that we're going to get a whole lot more Gideon this year?
I think it's fine. It kind of just like comes out of nowhere with like he just kind of kills Werner Herzog's character. I think it's kind of cheesy in a way.
Sure.
Like he kind of just like shows up and just like kills everybody, and he's like, "Yeah, actually, I'm the bad guy." But yeah, I think it's all set up pretty well. I think he's kind of he definitely does a good job making himself seem like a very scary guy in these 2 episodes. So I think it worked well. What about you?
Yeah, I think he commands a presence, and I think that's what carries it. I'm with you that the sort of appearing out of nowhere thing doesn't fully land because it doesn't feel like they tease the fact that there's a bigger threat at all.
Yeah.
Right?
It sort of just seems like it happened like this episode. He's like Werner Herzog's like, "Oh, I gotta take this call," and then like dies.
Yeah, because I think the main driving force of the season is gone for so many episodes. It's like in the back of your head, you're just thinking of like, oh, what's Werner Herzog's character up to? Like, what's he doing?
Turns out it wasn't him at all.
Yeah, he's just like a interstitial between the remaining stormtroopers and the benefactor, I guess, which is Moff Gideon. Like,
sure.
I don't think they teased that. Like, we talked about this last week with the gunslinger thing. Like, I initially thought that the boot and the cape on Tatooine was him, and he was just like following the trail of the Mandalorian, and maybe that was a tease, but like the internet ran away with that with not being him, so like I don't know if that was what it was meant to be or not. But yeah.
I don't know. I think that was definitely kept like ambiguous for a reason. I don't think
you're right.
Why. I don't know why. Yeah, I guess. But yeah, they didn't set him up at all. He just kind of came out of nowhere, and they kind of just forced the viewer to be like, "Oh, okay, like I guess there's a new bad guy in town," and then just move on.
Yeah, and to be fair, because I think it's easy to forget this rewatching it this year because we don't have the benefit of the hype cycle. Like leading into season 1, we knew he was in this, right? Like we knew Giancarlo Esposito was playing a Imperial looking character. We were just waiting for him to show up,
Yeah, and this is when I don't remember it being. I don't remember necessarily reacting to it when it came out as like, oh, that was weird, right? Like,
right,
because I think we were expecting it, but yeah, looking back on it, it is just like strange how he just shows up out of nowhere.
Definitely.
But I guess it makes sense. Like they do a good job, sort of implying that, like you said, Werner Herzog's character is just like a intermediary. Subordinate of Moff Gideon, like it seems.
For sure. Were you disappointed that Werner Herzog died?
Yes.
Yeah.
I honestly forgot that like he died. I totally forgot. I just like Werner Herzog. I think he's a great actor. I think I love his voice, and I think he's like really freaking scary in Star Wars, man.
Yeah.
Like I thought he was terrifying, and then he just dies. So I was disappointed. I honestly forgot that he died. And yeah, R.I.P. the client.
This episode has other deaths as well.
Yes.
R.I.P. to Kuiil.
Big R.I.P. to him.
The MVP of the season potentially helped Mando out.
Totally. The one character who's never did anything bad in his life doesn't deserve to die such a gruesome death, but yeah, here we are.
A truer soul than Luke Skywalker. And what happened to him?
Like Luke Skywalker lost a hand. Kuiil lost his life.
Yeah.
Sad.
For sure. But yeah, I think this episode has a good pace to it, even though it does feel like it's building to what episode 8 is. Because it still has that momentum of, hey, we're gathering all the returning characters from that we've met from season 1, and I obviously always love that whenever we're like getting a band together of like mercenaries or something. I really like that. It's like one of my favorite frames for storytelling. So that's really fun. But
It's kind of slow, and like you said, it just sort of moves towards the finale. It's sort of just the crescendo, I guess.
Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts on this one before we get into the big one?
Not really. To be
Okay.
honest.
So, Chapter 8. Scout Trooper punched the baby.
That's what we need. That's the main takeaway. I think those scout troopers are supposed to be like, or people suspect that they're called back to Tag and Bank, right? Are you familiar with that?
I am not.
They're like a comic book duo of like stormtroopers that essentially like get themselves into like these bad situations and cause the Star Wars universe to happen.
That sounds excellent.
Yeah, but people are just like people think that was just supposed to be a callback to them. Those two characters.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a lot in this episode. We kick off with that opening, but we get the sort of the standoff, right, of the gang against Gideon, and that takes up a significant chunk, I feel like, in terms of the emotional weight of the episode, right? Because it's that suspense of like what's going to happen, who's going to sacrifice themselves.
Yeah. Also some more exposition on the Mandalorian's part.
Yes. What do you think about the pace of this episode? Because I thought this was, at the time, I thought this was like one of the better paced episodes, and going back, I still think that.
I think that too. I think it starts off at a good place and it just maintains a good sort of feel throughout the entire thing. And I'm thinking back on it, the whole expositional thing with like the Mandalorian's history, that might have been episode 7.
Yeah, I think so.
My bad.
I can pull up a recap if you want.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to make you do that, but I just wanted to correct the record here.
Sure. I mean, regardless, it's within these 2 episodes, you know.
Yeah, doesn't matter. It's all one big blur to me.
Yeah, that's what you get when you watch them back to back, and that's what I did last year. So
yeah.
I really like also the scene where Mando goes back to like the underneath of the city or settlement, wherever his people were, and he goes with the armor, because like it's really eerie almost, and like it's heavily implied that whatever happened because of Din, and I just really appreciate how understated that is, because like you have to like read into it a little bit. Like it's not just like, oh yes, we all sacrificed ourselves for you. It's like, oh, while we were flying off making this daring escape with this baby that you could have just delivered and called it a day, like your people, they're dead.
Yeah,
we're gone.
And it's like it's basically all his fault.
Yeah. So
yeah, you could definitely feel the emotional weight of that in the scene. I didn't necessarily think of it myself before you brought it up, so
sure. Yeah. And I really just like the way that the armor plays off of him throughout the season, but specifically in the end here, and like is sort of the one that quests him. I think that's how we said it in the trailer for 2. I've been quested. She quests him to find the child's people, the Jedi.
I didn't realize that voiceover from season 2, the season 2 trailer, came from this.
Oh yeah, good point.
That's the armor from then. So
yeah, so that's pretty cool. Do you think she's gonna return? Because she like has an off-screen death? I watched them last night. I'm forgetting. Does she have an off-screen death? Or...
She fights some stormtroopers who like come into the armory. I don't know if she dies. I don't know if it's confirmed one way or the other.
Okay, so yeah, if it was off-screen, she's not dead.
Yeah.
What do you think about IG-11 and his role?
I think he's kind of boring, to be honest. He was voiced by Taika, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, like I think him and his bounty hunter role way funnier
than the nanny.
Yes.
do you think IG-11 returns?
Probably in some way. He already died once, but like, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to come back from self-destructing.
Yeah, like, do we get an IG-12 or something?
I feel like we're gonna get another IG unit voiced by Taika.
Yeah, I wouldn't write that out completely. I think that's almost likely. You know,
That I was surprised. I mean, I guess there was no other way for the characters to get out of that situation.
yeah.
But yeah, I was kind of upset when that happened because I kind of liked him as a character. But like I said, I like the assassin droid version more.
Sure. Yeah, it would be fun if they reintroduced him as like hunting them again in like a new form or something.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
So what did you think about like the very end of this? I mean, they eventually escape. The Mandalorian. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
I like the set piece a lot. I like the idea of like before the very very ending of like facing off against the TIE fighter.
Yeah,
I think I like that a lot because it is. I feel it feels in place with the rest of the series, and it feels in place with like some of the episodes of Clone Wars or Rebels we watched in terms of fitting the form of TV, where it's like it's a modest scale in terms of what's actually happening. It's like one TIE fighter against a couple people, and it just feels grounded with the rest of the show in a way that has a lot of emotional weight behind it of like what's going to happen, who's going to die, which I think you get those questions much more often with TV than you do in movies. And I think it's a really solid ending to the show as a whole, or the season, I mean, because it uses those stakes that it's planted throughout the entire 8 episodes really well. Even though like IG-11 is really the only casualty for the finale,
right,
on the hero side at least. But
yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, I think you make good points that it made sense in the context of the rest of the show. Like it wasn't some ridiculous like huge final battle. It made sense. And it was cool watching Mandalorian use his jetpack.
Yeah. Clearly in the season 2 trailer, he looks like he's got much more practice with it. So.
Yes, good for him. I also like how it keeps it pretty open ended. Like the show sort of ends in like a place where it could go many places.
Yeah, and I like that too. I like that they leave it with the, like you said, sort of open ended of we're just recentering on Din and the child. Like Cara Dune's hanging back, Greef Karga's hanging back. So there's a blank canvas essentially for the next season. If I had to bet, I would say we go right back to those characters in episode 1, considering both of them are heavily in the marketing material and the trailers we've seen so far. Yeah. And I'm assuming most of the stuff we've seen is from the first couple episodes. So
probably. I mean, do you think there's going to be a time jump?
A year ago I did, but now that we've seen more footage, we've seen more like materials, I'm thinking if there is a time jump, it's like less than 6 months, personally.
Okay.
Because like the way they play that scene, when in the trailer Mando shows up and he sees Greef Karga and Cara Dune again, he's like, hey, been a minute. Like,
yeah,
like I'm assuming it wasn't like, oh, remember like last week when we destroyed that TIE fighter? I need your help again.
No, yeah, it's probably been a bit. You're right.
Yeah, are you expecting one?
Yeah, I think 6 months probably good.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're probably right on that.
Sure. Overall, really good finale. Do you have anything else you want to bring up about it?
No, man, just other than I'm just excited to watch the next season. Like I feel like I'm accurate, not accurate, fully primed for it. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Just injected into my veins already. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm super stoked. Watching the final episodes the past few days, watching the stream today, even though it was just merch being blasted at me, like I'm really excited. Like I said, I'm in that Star Wars mood. I'm ready for season 2. I'm excited for season 2. They're releasing on Fridays again, every Friday. No weird release episodes or weekly release diversion like we had last year, but the one thing I hope changes, I don't know if they've said one way or the other, I would really like it to be released like afternoon on Friday.
Oh, okay.
Because the thing is, like, last year I woke up, I had to work Friday mornings, and then like my timeline had a bunch of like West Coast people that got to watch it at like 9 or like 10 on Thursday, and I was like, oh well, I missed that moment, you know. So like you can't live tweet it in a way that like I used to like when I did TV, or when I watched TV, but like you get that sacrifice with streaming. If it was evening for most places in the US, at least, I feel like that'd be nice. But
I guess it's one of those things that you just got to make sure that you don't like. You just try to stay off Twitter.
Yeah,
but it's hard.
Yeah, it's rough. I really like watching the show at night. So like if I have to go all day on Twitter, just not looking at it on a Friday, like that's rough.
Oh yeah, I'm watching it Friday night. I will always watch it on a Friday night. I think it's just sort of fun to do that. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to knock on social media.
That does, to me, it stings a bit though, because like I do think there is, at least especially with big fandom communities like Star Wars has, the things I can relate it to are like watched Arrow a lot, Breaking Bad, Walking Dead. Like you get like live fan theories and stuff sometimes, like on commercial breaks. Like granted, you don't get them now, so like taking time to tweet out would be like taking away from watching the episode. But yeah, it's a sacrifice.
I remember like in high school, like watching Breaking Bad and like people are tweeting about it as it was going, or like Game of Thrones or something.
Yeah, it's like, but now we just get to do our day after impressions, kind of post them up, see what people are talking about theory wise and stuff like that. But
our postmortems, yes.
Speaking of that, the next episode of this show, we're going to be fully breaking down Chapter 9, Season 2, Episode 1 of The Mandalorian. Do you have any final thoughts or predictions about this new episode before we put this episode of the podcast out?
The new episode?
For Mando, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I really don't. I really have no predictions. I can't even come up with anything.
Will we see a battle droid?
No. I think we're gonna see Moff. We're gonna get a little bit more of Moff Gideon's intentions, like his deeper intentions.
Who's the first character we see? Who do you think?
I think we're gonna see. It's gonna open up with Cara Dune like beating somebody up.
Okay, interesting.
That's what I think.
Okay, I like that. That's a good poll. That's a good choice.
That's what I think. I mean, maybe, but we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. But until then, Mike, where can the listeners find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mike P. Connors.
Very nice. You can find me on Twitter at Chris N. Buckley, as well as Instagram and Twitch. This show is available on podcast services like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you can rate or review the show on that platform, it would be greatly appreciated. It takes just a half second to tap the 5-star button. It takes a little longer to leave a little blurb, but if you do it, we appreciate it.
Please.
The show is also available on YouTube. YouTube.com/joyclicks is where you are if you're watching this as it premieres, because we usually do premieres Wednesday afternoon on the East Coast. If you want to watch along with the chat. We also have Patreon. Patreon.com/joyclicks is where you can go to get involved with the shows, not just this one, but Excelsior, our Marvel podcast, or the Joyclicks Gamescast for $1, $2, and $5. Get a variety of different rewards. And at the $5 tier, you get producer credit like Chris Sakas and Aaron Easton. So thank you very much. And I think that does everything. So we're about to enter a whole new world of Star Wars content by the time we're talking next, Mike.
I know. I'm excited, man. Bring it on.
Absolutely.
That's all I got to say.
Well, until then, we're fine. Everything's fine. How are you?
May the Force be with you.
Hello there. This is where the fun begins.
General Kenobi!